Hey guys, Gongrongzong here. The data mining for 8.1 has officially begun, and I hope you're as excited as I am for these changes. So let's take a quick glimpse together at 8 of the most exciting things that are coming in 8.1. First up, we have the new Night Elf Night Warrior customization, allowing you to change the eyes of your Night Elf to a pitch black shade. This awesome effect will be obtainable upon completing a scenario known as Tirans Ascension, essentially transforming herself into Elune's avatar. Her ascension ties in very well with the opening of the new Warfront in Darkshore, especially following the events of the burning of Teldrassil and the near demise of her husband, Malfurion. She is out to wreak havoc and gain vengeance for what happened to her home and her people, and I do hope that she returns to her badass personality that she and her Night Elves were defined by in Warcraft 3. Her character has really taken a beating and has been portrayed to be somewhat weak and frail since the events of the Emerald Nightmare in Legion and the following siege of Darkshore. I think both Horde and Alliance players will be keen, to put it plainly, on seeing her wreck some face again and embody the legendary warrior that she always was. Next, we have the new Warfronts. The release of the Arathi Warfront has been less than stellar, being plagued with bugs, long waiting times, and, to some, boring gameplay. What we can be certain of, at least, is that with 2 Warfronts running simultaneously in 8.1, there will be much less downtime in waiting for a Warfront to be ready, which is great news whichever way you see it. In addition, we will be of course getting new awesome Warfront armors, specifically the Night Elf and Forsaken variants. Let's take a look at the Forsaken variants first. Without a doubt, I think these were designed very well. They look like sets that came straight out of Icecrown Citadel, and I can easily imagine Forsaken soldiers dressed up in these armors patrolling the Undercity. If there was still an Undercity, may that glorious city rest in peace. The attention to detail of the chainmail on the mail and plate armors is phenomenal, with skull motifs on every armor type adorning the shoulder pads. Definitely a set that you want to get if you're on the Horde, regardless of your race. Now let's take a look at the Night Elf armors. Again, I think they've done a fantastic job with these. They are exactly what I would think of if a piece of armor was culturally tied to Night Elf society. The more sophisticated variants have either feathers or claws attached to them, showcasing their deep druidic heritage or close affinity with nature. The plate armor does not look overly chunky or exceptionally heavy, probably designed with the quick and nimble nature of elves in mind. Regardless of how you view them, the sets definitely scream Night Elf when you look at them. Next, on number 3, we have of course the new heritage armors that are coming to the older, existing playable races of WoW, starting with the Dwarves and the Blood Elves. I think racial armors are a great addition to the game, and if Blizzard does a good job with all of them, I might just forgive them for excluding raid tier sets in Battle for Azeroth. The Dwarves are getting a Viking-inspired set, which I think is very suitable for them, building upon the iconic spike helmets that our dear Ironforge guards don on their heads. As of the making of this video, we don't exactly know yet what the heritage armor of the Blood Elves will be, but if it turns out to be like the classic Spellbreaker armor in Warcraft 3, I can safely say that I can die happy. So far, the Blood Elf scenario to unlock the racial armors has been released, and it couldn't get more epic than this. We'll be travelling back in time to experience the war between the Scourge and Quel'Thalas, meeting key figures such as Arthas and Sylvanas. Let's not forget, there is a substantial percentage of the player base today that never played through Warcraft 3's campaign, and so it'll be great for them to experience firsthand the resurrection of Sylvanas and the destruction of the High Elves. Now on to number 4, the return of none other than vol'jin, and a cryptic exploration into why exactly our dear undead waifu was appointed as war chief. If you're someone that is into the story and lore of Warcraft, this is probably the feature that you're most excited about. In a nutshell, Horde players will go through an entire process of interrogating the various Lords of Death, so to speak, from Bonswamdi to Bolvar the new Lich King to even Eir, the leader of the Valaja Valkyr, in an attempt to figure out who exactly instructed vol'jin to appoint Sylvanas as war chief. And the real mystery is that none of them were responsible. Keep in mind that this mystery figure was powerful enough to keep vol'jin hidden away from the world of undeath, prevent him from calling upon Bonswamdi, manipulate him into choosing Sylvanas as war chief, while tricking him into thinking that he or she was actually a benevolent Loa, craves destruction and death even more than any of the Lords of Death that were questioned, and influenced the events at the Broken Shore to ensure that vol'jin would be struck down by the demons. In addition, there were some specific lines of dialogue that really piqued my interest, namely in their reference to the word balance. Bonswamdi claims that Sylvanas be tipping the scales too far, and that balance be important, while Bolvar states that the Banshee Queen's schemes threaten the balance. What exactly is this balance? Well, in my opinion, they could be referring to two things. The first and most direct interpretation would be the balance between life and death. Death can only occur where there is life, and if life were to be extinguished, such as if Azeroth, the prime world soul, were to be destroyed, the endless supply of spirits from the cycle of life would come to an end. This presumably would not be in favor of how Bonswamdi operates, thus him stating why balance is important. For Bolvar, his statement can be interpreted pretty simply in that he is still trying his best to be the jailer of the damned and does not want the scourge to run rampant. An overwhelming amount of death and killing would only make his job more difficult. Based on this theory, could it have been a new extremely powerful force of death that originates from the Shadowlands, an area that we have barely gotten a glimpse of over Warcraft's entire existence? Unbeknownst to most of us, there is another Loa of Death, or at least we think he's a Loa, and goes by the name of Muezala. Muezala is primarily worshipped by the Sand Fury tribe, but has never actually been seen before, other than being a large, dark, shapeless shadow. There also exists a prophecy whereby if Muezala were to win the final battle, a reckoning would come and he would feast upon all of Azeroth. Speculation also exists that Odin's powers of being able to glimpse into the Shadowlands, the realm of death, originate from Muezala. To quote from Wowpedia, Odin gave up one of his eyes to a mysterious spirit from the Shadowlands in order to gain the ability of seeing into that realm. It was described as shapeless and surrounded Odin in shadow. Given that Muezala is a Loa of Death, and that when summoned in Traveler, he was described as darkening the area he was summoned in and with his shape changing constantly, that being could have been Muezala. Thus, there could exist another Agent of Death that we aren't completely sure is or isn't a Loa, who is extremely powerful, fated to bring about the end of the world itself. Nevertheless, the second way to interpret this balance would be the balance between the light and the void. This entire expansion has been building up towards the epic battle against it, most certainly N'Zoth, the old god of the sea. Sylvanas can be interpreted to be upsetting the balance by constantly mining away at Azerite, weakening Azeroth against her eventual battle against the Void Lords. Let's not forget that death has been shown multiple times to be the enemy of the Void, as death represents the end of all things, including that of the Void. This theory is a little more abstract though compared to the first one, but I still wouldn't discount it out yet. Could it be Blizzard doing the same old story arc again, of an old god doing the whispering? In line with this, we also have the mystery of who exactly sent vol'jin back. It is shown in the dialogue that the one who imprisoned vol'jin is a different entity from the one who released him. Vol'jin had been touched by the hand of valor upon his release. This force is most undoubtedly benevolent, a complete opposite to the one that imprisoned his spirit, and a very powerful one at that, to completely counteract the effects that have shown to overpower the aforementioned Agents of Death. The most plausible theory would be that it was a figure aligned with the light, possibly an existing Titan, a Naru, or perhaps even Azeroth herself. Visually, vol'jin is already depicted to be the literal embodiment of the light. His entire figure is glowing brightly, a stark contrast to how a figure like Bonswamdi is designed. And if vol'jin is going to be resurrected as a figure of the light, it then becomes entirely possible that he may just get reincarnated as the new Lore of the Light to replace Razan, the previous Lore of the Light that had recently met his unfortunate demise. This would also turn into a fantastic way to introduce back into both Zandalari society and the game Zandalari Paladins, the elusive new Paladin allied race that Blizzard has hinted at multiple times but never actually given a definitive answer to. Regardless of what may actually happen, I think we're in for a ride in the follow-up story of what's in store for the future of vol'jin, Sylvanas, and the mysterious Shadowlands. Now we come to the much awaited Spec Reworks. As of the making of this video, only some very preliminary info has been data mined for the Elemental Shaman and Feral Druid, so I can't really comment on the specifics yet, but so far it looks encouraging. The devs are making good on their promise to rework the talents of the underperforming specs. Some talents are getting reshuffled, and new talents are getting added in. Many of us were upset during the launch of BFA, and perhaps still, due to our favourite mains not being up to par in terms of class balance. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they actually listened to player feedback this time around during the PTR testing, and 8.1 fixes many of the flaws that were glaring during launch. And of course, you can't create a list of anticipated things coming with a new patch without including a new raid tier, but this time around, we're delving really deeply into the theme of the faction war in BFA, with the Horde and Alliance actually having different raid bosses to fight. On the Alliance side, the last boss will be King Rastakhan, and on the Horde side, it will be none other than our dear Jaina Proudmoore. We all know for certain that Jaina isn't going to die, while our beloved Zandalari Troll King just might kick the bucket in order to make way for his daughter to rule. By setting up the storyline this way, we'll be able to see how Rastakhan's deal with Bonswamdi plays out, especially for his daughter when she ascends to the throne. On the flip side, Jaina's battles will finally come full circle. In Warcraft 3, her father and Kultiran forces were assaulted by the Horde. This time around, she has returned to bear the full brunt of the Kultiran navy upon Horde forces. I do personally hope that she meets with Rexxar, as his return was premised upon her return, and they've yet to have a face-to-face confrontation. And also, major plus point, if you're on the Horde, you also get to fight Murkatok, the ruler of the gnomes. No worries though, he also doesn't die. As per the data mined info, he is equipped with an escape mechanism. But hey, who doesn't want to see the full power of that suit unleashed? A suit that can literally one-shot a Felguard in the face. And with the new raid comes new raid armors. While the sets in Uldir were pretty meh to me in terms of design, all the armor types that have been released this time around look exceptional. The theme of bones is very obviously apparent, and all of them look like they could easily fit in as the personal soldiers of Bonswamdi. However, rather than being depicted as undead or ghostly in appearance, the armors are designed to be much more tribal in nature, reflecting the atmosphere of the troll raid and their traditional customs of voodoo, totems, and tikis. If you've ever wanted to look like a blood troll in 8.1, this would be the perfect time to create a Zandalari and don these necrotic armors. And lastly, we come to one of the most anticipated features ever since the announcement of allied races, our dear Kultirans and Zandalari trolls as playable allied races. Nothing screams hype more than these two, especially for those that wish to play a druid, being the first two allied races that can be druids, with completely new forms to boot. Personally, I love the thematic approach that has been taken to these forms, a death and decay concept for the Kultirans and a Dinomancer approach for the Zandalari. Nothing would add more variety to the game than seeing these new forms running around in the world. In addition, their heritage armor is nothing to scoff at. The Kultirans are going full pirate/boat captain look, reflecting their naval background, while the Zandalari are embellished with gold ornaments and carvings of all kinds, reflecting their home of Zuldazar, the city of gold. While it will always be impossible to please everyone, I think the art and design team did a great job this time around for these armors. And those are 8 of the most exciting things coming to BFA in 8.1. Of course, there are a whole boatload of updates coming around in the patch, minor things like the outpost upgrade for your mission table, and the return of Xal'atath. It remains to be seen exactly how big an impact these changes will have in the coming months ahead. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in Azeroth.